Welcome to another episode, this time of Forever Sergeant Reads Old Shit. This time we are going to be looking at our next piece that we're going to start reading, and it is the trial transcript of the trial of Miss Joan of Arc. Most people know it as Joan of Arc. I don't speak French, so sorry, Joan of Arc. That's about the best I can do. Good luck. It is interesting. So I already looked at, well, first of all, we can look at this over here. So this is what I will be reading from. This is the medieval source book as the trial of Joan of Arc. As you can see there, Joan d'Arc, translated into English from the original Latin and French documents. There is an essay, there is a biographical sketch of the trial judges and other persons involved. And then, of course, you have some illustrations. This work was all done in 1932, and then it was put on the internet by Fordham University for free. So this is a link that anyone can access. It will be in the notes on the online on the show notes. This is old but wonderful website. I've used a lot of it, both in writing for degrees and also just for general interest of, I wonder what this says. I wonder if this is what actually is what we have. So I'd highly recommend it. It is old, so some of the links do not work, but a lot of them do, and there's a lot of good text all for free on this website. So as we always start with any work in history, try to figure out what is our source text. In this case, we actually have originals from the exact time in which this took place. So as the AI overview states, the oldest extant copies, remember those are copies that are still in existence, are 3 original Latin transcripts, interesting, right, drafted immediately following the trial by the court's notary. So we know exactly who made this. This is this gentleman here. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that because it's just going to be brutal. These are all housed in Paris. Not sure where that first one is. The second one, of course, is the Louvre. And another in the Louvre. Interesting because we have 2 different mediums, right? We have a vellum, and then we have paper and paper. It is pretty wild to see. So you have this on vellum, most people think that it belonged to the chief prosecutor, a bishop, Pierre Cauchon. Hopefully that's right. Which is interesting. I was a French prosecutor, right? Because they had turned her over to the English during the 100 Years' War because she had caused some problems. And in order to expedite a political end to the hostilities at that point, the French turned her over to the English, who were then, of course, in France. And then this trial happened, and then, of course, she was executed. Spoiler alert, she doesn't make it. Sorry. The other 2 is an interesting one because you have numerous erasures and corrections. Interesting. Because you can definitely tell that, like, oh, oops, got that one wrong. Need to get it right for the probably for some kind of official record. And then another one that has the original seals. So if you know, or if you're about to find out, Oftentimes, these manuscripts were sealed with a particular either signet or ring or some other kind of stamp as a sign of an official document. So you may have something sealed by a bishop seal or by the pope or by a king or duke or whatever, and that would indicate that this is official correspondence. So it has the original seals, which is fascinating. Let's see if we can scroll down more here. Let's see, we've got the surviving documents were based on the original French minute notes taken during the daily interrogations. The interrogations at this time were pretty rough. These were not generally necessarily geared towards getting the truth out of someone as much as it was inflicting pain in order to gain compliance. And oftentimes, when you were tortured, it might mean that if you confess to whatever crimes that you are being accused of, whether you are guilty or not, your fate is pretty much already decided. And what they are trying to do in these interrogations, which are typically done by the church, there is, in fact, a wild interrogation manual that you can find online from the Catholic Church. These interrogations, as I said, were meant to gain compliance, not the truth. So they wanted you to say what they wanted you to they wanted you to say what they wanted you to say. And they were going to interrogate you until you did so. And that admission of guilt was not going to generally resolve in your freedom. It would maybe resolve in less torture publicly, or might resolve in a different way of execution. But your fate was pretty much already sealed. So it is interesting to note that, we think of modern interrogations as, asking questions. Of course, there's the enhanced interrogations that we are familiar with. And those are generally more geared towards finding true facts and not just getting a statement for propaganda use. So as this goes on, this is from Reddit, so let's try and see if we can find a better source for this. But it says 5 official copies. A rehabilitation trial some decades later ordered 1 to be destroyed, and a 5th was eventually lost. The 3 remaining are in Paris, and absolute earliest direct records of the proceedings, because, they were taken either during or very shortly after. So, this is the AI overview, which isn't necessarily wonderful. Obviously, it has a translated text of the proceedings, which leads us back to that Fordham University site. Historical notes and primary condemnation transcripts on the St. Joan of Arc Center. Let's go there and see if we can find some more information here. So, and this one also has the same ones by W.P. Barrett. W.P. Barrett, so this is the same text as the Fordham University. Interesting. And it does have the introduction, which I'm sure was penned by this gentleman here. Let's see if we can go down to the end. Go on to essay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So that must be by Pierre Champion. So this was an essay by this gentleman regarding the trial. Interesting. So you can definitely find some information here. So that's good. Let's go back up to the top and see if we can find some good ones. So these are just the contents. Let's see where this page, let's see if we can find out where this page comes from. Sojourn photography, interesting. Okay. So it looks like it was this particular Sojourn photography folks who put together this website. Let's see if we can find out who the heck this Sojourn photography is. Well, nothing there. Sojourn photography. No longer supported. I am not that good of an internet sleuth, so probably not going to be able to find that exactly. Let's see what other links we've got here. The International Joan of Arc Society. Okay, the St. Joan of Arc Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Interesting. So these are artifacts. This is a museum in France. And apparently Mark Twain wrote a book about this. Interesting. As I said, running into some of those dead links. Too bad. Let's see what the St. Joan of Arc Center has to say about things. As that's going. So her journey, biographical sketches, okay. So we will go into, this is going to be a little bit shorter just because there isn't as much of a paper trail because we have the originals, right? So it seems, I guess we can see, when did this make it too bad to the Louvre? All right, so now we're getting a little bit more of the information. So this one is saying, okay. So we have the trial in 1431 in January. She was executed on the 30th of May that year. The text of the has disappeared. There remains a partial copy. Okay, so that would be, I'm guessing, the actual trial register. So in 1435, so this is actually 4 years later, roughly, 2 members of the court, the notary, and this other gentleman here drafted a report in Latin according to the original text, which is also lost. So this text that the Louvre has right here, the paper copy with the original seals, is not from the trial itself, but actually about 4 years later, from 2 members who were there, one of which is the notary, and then they drafted this report in Latin from an original text, which has been lost. Don't you love history? Has been lost. Let's see. And a copy on vellum, which came to the library in 1811. So if you're doing the rough math there, we're looking about 380 years-ish, I believe. Who knows what was happening with this vellum for 380 years with the purchase of the library of President de Cotte. Bears the stamp. Okay. So bears the stamp of this gentleman here, Pierre Cauchon, to whom it was originally intended. So it was meant to go to this gentleman, Pierre, which not sure exactly who this is, so let's see. Who was the bishop who was overseeing the trial. So it does bear the stamp. So this the vellum, copy on vellum, was sent to the bishop who was in charge of the trial. It just happened to be hanging around for 300 or almost 300 years before it made its way to where it is now. Let's see. One of the best documented. So apparently there was a trio of notaries, okay, headed by a chief notary who took notes in French. After about 4 years, these records were translated into Latin. University of Paris master. Okay. So Thomas up here was with the University of Paris. 5 copies were produced. So you had the investigations and appellate trial. Isn't that wonderful that they decided to retry her 20-ish years after they burned her at the stake. Yikes. Okay, during the process, so at this retrial, you had 115 witnesses questioned during the investigations. That's a very good amount, including many of the clergymen who had served during the trial in 1431. So roughly 20 years later, you have about 100 or so folks, a little over 100 people being interrogated again about their memories. Interesting. And described how the English government had manipulated the affair, right? And this gentleman, Jules, published the first unabridged version of the trial record, and the first volume is 5-volume series. Wow. In the 1840s. So now we're going 400 years later for the first full volume in French. And then in 1932, when the English translation became available from W.P. Barrett that we already saw. So, bam, there you go. And the 1928 film was based on the trial of record. So we have the vellum, which has the original seal intended for the bishop. So we have that one. So that one probably fairly soon after, and then the other two were from about 4 years later. And so as we see with the numerous changes, the erasures and crossings out, 4 years later, they're looking at a bunch of different transcripts. So if they're looking at the original text, and then they say, "Oh, wait, hold on, this guy got it wrong, or he missed something, didn't copy this correctly, whatever." So they're making changes to that transcript to have an official record. Too bad we don't have more on what that was. So let's see. Can we go back to... Maybe if we look at the documentary history. So let's try that. Documentary story of Joan of Arc. So yeah, these are all going to be, hey, isn't this a wonderful thing? No, no, no. History of the documents. How about that? Uh, famoustrials.com, huh? So here we have the actual. That does Latin stuff. Latin in cursive is even more tough. Yikes. So basically, the notaries here are attesting that the manuscript is true to the original minutes. That's interesting. Okay. We have the images. And then we have all of the wonderful movies and such and books and whatnot. Really what I was looking for. Professor Douglas O. Linder. So let's see what we've got from Mr. Douglas O. Linder. Professor Douglas O. Linder. School of Law. Interesting. Okay. Missouri, Kansas. Interesting. And put together these famous trials. There's definitely some very interesting law going on there for sure. Let's see if we can make one more attempt to find these documents here. Yikes. Hmm. Okay. Let's see if we can go with the official sites. So they might not have, let's see, rules long term. There we go. I guess that would make sense that I would need to use the French name at the most famous French museum in the world. Yikes. Okay. We don't want that. We want okay. That's not what we're looking for either. Ah, there we go. How about categories? Let's go back to Joan of Arc. Maybe we need that on the Orca Plus. Let's see. We can do the oldest extant copy. There we go. Let's do that. See if we can find. Actually, let's see this one. Let's see if we can find this one with all the erasures. Too bad. Okay. So this may not have the manuscripts, unfortunately. It's a tough one. So we know it is housed there. We know that the biblioteki is what we need. We know it's housed there. We knew that the documents were from about 4 years after the trial, and we knew that the vellum was supposed to be sent to the presiding bishop. So we do not have the exact day-to-day minutes, unfortunately. What we have is 4 years later, the official record, as the notaries stated from the official minutes, which of course have been lost. So there is no way to tell that if these are the exact words or testimonies that were given. Although you can say with a fairly high degree of certainty that this is likely to be, if not the exact, then probably pretty darn close, considering it was from people who literally presided during the trial and were, as far as we can tell, writing their report from the minutes. So that leaves us with next week when when I will go into the history, short history before. She was 19, so very short history before the trial of what was going on and why this was so important. And then we're going to start reading and seeing what on earth is going on here in this crazy trial. We will see you next week. As always, I love you all, and be excellent to each other.